HistoryFlights, everybody. The show where I teach history with video games. And this is the first of 3 Delta papers. This is a manifesto combining historical and current political analysis with with BioShock 2 gameplay in this case. So I'm just gonna get right into it. After this cutscene. This music tugs at my heartstrings every time.
Look, Daddy, it's you.
Oh. Goodness. Aren't you adorable, Eleanor?
Let's go out to play, Daddy.
And by that, we mean taking blood from corpses to fulfill the need of other walking corpses for Adam. Which I will explain what that is later. There's Andrew Ryan, the dictator of Rapture at the time, in 1959. He will be the main point of historical comparison to President Taco.
More angels, Daddy. This way.
That's what they had to tell the little sisters with mental conditioning. There's a particularly great section where you get to play as a little sister towards the end of the game that well, I won't spoil exactly how it goes, but this is why I keep telling you not to run too far ahead of me. Stop! And that is a plasmid. Essentially magic in a needle. Well, no you.
Get out of here, freak!
I think that's a couple of the multiplayer characters. And there's a mind control plasmid.
There we are. He's perfectly safe now. This is not your daughter. Do you understand? Her name is Eleanor, and she is mine. Now, kneel, please.
Oh no.
Remove your helmet.
Gotta do it.
Now, take the pistol. Place it against your head. Fire.
Oh, this hits me where I live now. And I'll explain why soon. My goodness, this game is underrated. In the entire BioShock trilogy, I think it's the it's the best of them in a lot of categories, especially the gameplay, and debatably the story, which, again, I will get to all that throughout the show.
Hello, can you hear me?
Alright. Back to work, buddy. While I start my important work as America feels like Babylon. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. These were the immortal words containing the hopes of a ragtag group of lawyers, smugglers, and statesmen. The introduction to my favorite document since I wanted to be president when I was 5. I have kept true faith and allegiance to these words, to these hopes, in my federal oath of office as part of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau for the past 10 years. Yet they feel ever more out of reach than they have ever before in the present chaos. That's with the family resources that I have, and the privilege of my skin color, ability to mask my autism, and wear any clothes to hide my transgender identity. Even as I yearn to wear dresses the way I used to when I thought that my girlfriend and son would be coming from Swaziland. I went to American University for political science with a minor in history to go into public service, and took the only job that I've ever known, hoping to make a difference by supporting an agency full of people that I have been truly honored to work with. CFPB embodied the highest ideals of what government should be for, going after scammers, suing the rich to compensate the ripped off, informing and enabling as many Americans as possible to achieve their dreams. They called us Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. We fought for you. Remember us. I took these words to the No Kings protest in Prospect Park, Brooklyn on June 14th, 2025, 6 months after felon Muskrat having bought himself an internship with a 2024 election donation. I'm not going to call the election stolen yet, because he did not manage to steal Wisconsin, and we need to still prove this in a court of law. Then declared RIP CFPB, and in response the district court left it on life support while rabid doges ran loose. And even now, as I sit here with the good America I believed in as a kid shattered, I'm still fighting for it, because as I proclaimed in front of the Liberty Bell when I visited Philadelphia for the first time last July 4th, and got this shirt of the first political cartoon in America from Benjamin Franklin, which was crucial to the French and Indian War effort, liberty is not dead as long as people fight for it. And 6 million of us did in the largest protest in American history. I also wrote these lesser-known Declaration of Independence quotes on another poster board and handed them out to fellow prisoners. Protesters. Not prisoners. Yet, I hope. Oh boy. Perhaps you'll recognize exactly what the framers were hoping to avoid ever happening again when they signed the Constitution. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent forth hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. He has kept among us in times of peace, standing armies without the consent of our legislatures. He has effected to render the military independent and superior to the civil power. For cutting off our trade with all parts of the world, for imposing taxes on us without our consent, for transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offenses. He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of our protection and waging war against us. And most hauntingly, he has excited domestic insurrections amongst us. Masculine ego stroking at its finest. Alright. Time to get the shocking news. Poor Subject Delta, he's really going through it right now, but being a big daddy has a very tough body, even after being in a coma for 10 years.
Missed you. Find her and you'll be all better.
Whoa! Alright, dual-wielding superpowers and giant drills. My favorite. Okay, let me make sure. Yep, there we go. So there's a few of these that you can get. But I feel like this is the last one, or close to it. Okay. Yeah, maybe one more after this. Well, I could draw... Oh, I can't carry any more Eve hypos. Got it. Let's see. Bam. What's the button for this again? Let's see. I'm betting the game will tell me. Oh yeah, that's food. You gotta get that sometimes. I could draw comparisons between President Taco. I refuse to ever mention that walking orange bag of diarrhea ever again, because he always chickens out, and if it gives him less power in a way, I'm all for it. And King George all day, but by the last of these 3 Delta Papers live streams, I will instead explain how Taco is not a king, and instead explain how he's just a pale imitation of a fascist demagogue and strongman, and give 2 scenarios for his taco shell finally falling apart. Yet what has made all of this so hard to compile together in the meantime is that far too many innocent people have gotten hurt. So to save my sanity, I will be excoriating this criminal regime specifically for as much of the genocidal bullcrap it has pulled and tried to pull against transgender, non-binary, and autistic people like me as I can, even as I mock it for its bumbling incompetence through the lens of a new political theory called the CATS, Consolidating Ascendant Tin Pot Stopped life cycle. If you try to keep up with every little thing a wannabe dictator does, you eventually get exhausted, and I've been burnt out many a time researching this. But once you see the pattern of how dictators operate, you can see the weave better. This will be my thesis video before I go on to compare Taco to the initially more effective but still collapsed Andrew Ryan machine in Rapture, as you can see all around you. My goodness. This place has really seen better days. As well as historical dictatorships more in depth, and analyze the fundamental political forces behind the rise and fall of dictators while playing this game tonight, BioShock on July 19th at the same time after the next No Kings Day of Action on July 17th, and BioShock Infinite on August 2nd. Once the government thought a well-read citizenry afforded free public education would be good for American democracy, now the elites only care about worming through our government for money, and mainstream media is cowering behind settlements, and the technologists are breaking education with endless shitty entertainment for mind control, telling people who are exhausted with information to surrender thinking and art to their AI calves, while Christo-fascists hog all the bunting with vouchers. Large language models are basically auto-correcting on steroids, yet we're replacing people with them very quickly, without considering the consequences of such. And you know why they're doing this? Because they want us dumb. They want us complacent. They want us waiting for proclamations from algorithmic pulpits. With journalists threatened, I will help lead the charge to rebuild it brick by brick, as I eventually pursue a degree and career in journalism. So with this manifesto, I declare that nothing will stop me or my channel, HistoryFlights Productions, from my pursuit of truth, justice, and historical accuracy as the fascists tried to erase my favorite subject. So thank you for joining me.
At last, a signal.
Oh,
You
Tannenbaum.
who are bringing this dead city to life, listen. My name, it is Tannenbaum. I know who you are, and I am in much need of your help. Please, find me in the Atlantic Express train
Oh,
station.
right. I forgot that it's Y to jump with this game for some silly reason. And you can't read any of the controls on the Xbox version of the BioShock remasters, so have fun with that. Let's see. Oh, right, that other room that was inaccessible. Okay, so I'm streaming BioShock 2 first, because spoilers for a 15-year-old game, deuteragonist Eleanor Lamb says in the good ending The rapture dream is over. But in waking, I am reborn. This world is not yet ready for me, yet here I am. It would be so easy to misjudge them. You are my conscience, Father. Your memories... And I need you to guide me. You will always be with me now, Father, your memories, your drives. And when I need you, you will be there on my shoulder whispering, if Utopia is not a place, but a people, then we must choose carefully, for the world is about to change.
This is Dr. Sofia.
And in our story, Rapture was just the beginning.
Remember, you are not alone. Think of me not as leader, but as mother to the Rapture family.
Put a pin in that message for a bit, because, it's funky how Eleanor Lamb has taken over in Andrew Ryan's absence. There's also another audio diary I gotta get.
I am back in Rapture after so many years. The little ones I rescued are grown up and think of me no more. After what I once did to them, it was a joy to be forgotten. But now, all around the world, children vanish by the sea.
Ooh, yeah.
Kidnapped. And so I return, in fear of what I already know. Someone is making new little ones, continuing my work, my sins. Even if I am to die for it, I must stop them.
$5 to use the bathroom? No wonder Rapture went down the toilet. Well, that felt good after 10 years of holding it in. I'm a little low on drill fuel, but I should be okay. For now, and it's not a big deal if I have to smack them around. But yeah, I changed my avatar on a forum to her without thinking when I was about 18 or so. But it was formative in my gender identity journey because it showed me that feminine, no matter what anybody says, they don't know what any of this gender stuff means and should stop acting like they do. Consciousness could live in a male body when my government is telling me that I can't. And now that I have a son of my own, I feel a powerful big daddy-like rage growing inside me every exhausting day to fight the world for my little man and his mom, my baby bird, just as Subject Delta does for Eleanor throughout the game. That is part of why BioShock 2 is my favorite game of all time. And that's why I chose to call this series the Delta Papers. Delta is the Greek symbol for change, and also written on his left glove, which contains a multitude of powers. It's also fitting as the name of the man with no face, as Sofia Lamb ends up calling him. Yet, it's she who is the one who acts inhumanly throughout the game by brainwashing a cult of her followers called the Family to worship her daughter, Eleanor, who she's keeping locked up and deprived of choices while taking out her anger on Delta, who did nothing but protect her until he eventually defeats her, choosing mercy where he can. I believe that the BioShock series explores these kinds of moral conundrums well, if not always with consistent writing, as you'll see when I get to Infinite. I can't wait for people to see that when the Netflix adaptation comes out. There we go. You're toast. Okay, so Delta's actions affirmed what that we always have a choice when the command of Andrew Ryan, the founder of Rapture, and his invisible great chain that entrusted everything to the free market because government deregulation is currently going so well, was a man chooses, a slave obeys. Obey! Well, I will never obey or tolerate any kind of partisan loyalty oath to a mad jester such as future federal employees will be subjected to, where they must describe their favorite taco-flavored fancy memo. That's what an executive order is. I would say that this is illegal, but what has the taco administration done that has not been illegal in some way? One weakness of this comparison, of course, is that Rapture was never founded with a truly democratic system to dismantle to begin with. Rapture was governed by a central council that apparently was elected according to a BioShock 2 multiplayer in-game announcement, though to further quote from the same wiki article about it, despite Ryan's strong anti-government policies, the council nonetheless had emergency powers to seize individual citizens' assets, to appropriate itself of private companies, and to issue arrest warrants.
Impossible!
That's enough out of you. Let's see. Okay. Although there were several members of the council, it is debatable whether they actually had much real power, as most of the later directives came from Andrew Ryan. Thus, Ryan had little hindrance when he took strong action against the destruction being done to his city, emphasis added by me. It makes sense why he's so central. He had the vision and most of the capital, set the ethos of the great chain, Adam Smith's invisible hand of the market writ large. And he has a giant statue of himself at the beginning of Bioshock 1 that I put the taco on in the thumbnail for the next live stream, in place of his literally and figuratively malodorous, saggy face. This is what Elon, Bezos, etc. want. To satisfy their towering egos with fiefdoms protected from any kind of regulation or oversight. Whether it's underwater cities, which are literally being discussed, or something else. Thus was the CFPB stabbed in the back. Yet I use fiefdom very purposefully. Instead of a true monarchy, what the American oligarchs are attempting to set up is a weak, sultanistic oligarchy based on techno-feudalism. This means that there's a central figurehead, but he relies on a cadre of inner circle supporters to to protect and advise him, and is not very strong without them. So, the thing is that feudalism is indeed a very resilient system, and given that it popped up independently in Japan and Europe, and lasted until the Meiji Revolution in 1868 in Japan, and the islands of Sark still uses it, and could bring real stability and efficiency of a kind, but just for the few. Enforced with digital traps full of people's hastily stolen data they freely gave to the federal government or put elsewhere, such as the health trackers RFK Jr. loves to talk about using to track autistic people like cows! Hence, what I predict will be a Watergate level of distrust in government for the next 30 years, no matter who controls it. However, with all this tariff crap and the general civil unrest, again, very much not what dictatorships promise, they are now realizing that Taco is truly so transactional and yet swayed by those who were last in the room with him that, for example, Meadow went to court with the FTC when Zuckerberg probably thought paying off Taco would get that dropped. Or perhaps Silicon Valley is crying that they can't buy an end to state AI regulation. Either way, the nobles were the ones who eventually told the king to knock it off and made him sign the Magna Carta, not because they cared about the rights of the people, but just their own. Okay, time for the big sister fight. I gotta heal up a bit. This is tough, especially on hard. Alright, here goes nothing. Oh, the poor big sisters, honestly. I really don't like having to fight them.
Big sister doesn't want you playing with me.
Because look at all that metal around her entire body. It's just completely constricting her. Okay. Come at you. Oh, right. She bails before you can really do damage. I forgot about that part. Okay, so...
Dr. Sofia with a message for the people.
Oh, another message. Listen up, everybody.
Big Sister is always watching. To steal Adam is to steal from the Rapture family. Your
We could-
family.
You can see how the pathos in that message and the the pathos and the exhortations to the cultists show that you cross the dictator at your peril in an absolute dictatorship like this. I mean, she's basically dictator of the wreckage after Andrew Ryan fell and then was killed at the end of Bioshock 1. And apparently has rebuilt as much of the crumbling system as she could in order to benefit her and her daughter. And that system was basically kidnapping little girls, planting sea slugs in their stomachs, and then extracting that to, again, make these superpowered drugs that are in my character's left hand right now. I don't think I have any more... Oh, I do, a little bit. Okay. Let me see if I can get any more, though. Because I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to fight her again, though it's been a minute since I played this game. Anyway, the closest I can think of to a rapture in real life, if it does happen, is the Italian city-states after the Holy Roman and Byzantine empires faded in Italy, which I'll get into in my next stream in 2 weeks. Of course, if they were successfully set up in the United States and that were exempted from federal and state laws by King Orange Diarrhea, as he is inclined to do, see the TikTok ban law and how that's been indefinitely delayed, and didn't fall apart from internal civil war for control of resources, like Rapture, the kinds of egos that would flee organized society, to go under the ocean, thinking that they'll be masters of their own domain, would resist any kind of authority. Like how the Confederate States of America had problems with wrangling various states into a cohesive nation, including an army to secede with. Yet as Fontaine said, somebody's got to scrub the toilets. And since AI is far from being able to do that with robots, and Frank Fontaine is Andrew's Ryan for power, I'll get more to him in a minute. Let's see. Kind of clunky to have to do that to use Eve hypos now, but oh boy. Oh, the gorgeous Art Deco ruins of it all. Anyway, in order to really get this kind of thing going, you'd need a Helic class of near slaves like in Sparta, such as political prisoners or actual prisoners or illegal immigrants sent to concentration camps like Alligator Alcatraz. Why, Laura Loomer? Why are you just so inhuman that you have to say, oh, alligators have 65 million meals now, referring to Latinos? What is happening in this country? Anyway, this kind of thing could lead to unrest or government seizure of said independent city-state, just like when Fontaine's department store was closed and converted into a sunken prison for Fontaine's former criminal henchmen, all by the orders of the Rapture Central Council. As Rapture's civil war approached, and the great chain Ryan so prized began to break down, from smuggling and disorder over atom shortages and withdrawals because he blocked any trade with the surface in order to be self-reliant, but you kind of need trade. You can't make everything yourself. Taco. He began to show his true colors, such as fabricating evidence to arrest Sofia Lamb when her collectivist book Unity and Metamorphosis and her talks in Popper's Drop began to get popular, or calling Tenenbaum a madwoman for very late, due to her own guilt for involvement in such, opposing kidnapping and genetic experimentation on children, first as little sisters and then teenage big sisters. Backing up a minute, again, Adam is a genetically altering material found in the bellies of sea slugs and later implanted into little girls to make plasmage. This is part of and a metaphor for the underlying consumerist economy of Rapture. Without ethical guidance for the science and demand through the roof, it caused people to become addicted to not only the drug, but perfection as a measure of worth in and of itself. Imagine you could be the smartest at medicine or art or tennis and do so without effort. It all reminds me of how many tech companies shill AI by calling its users dumb and lazy. Anyhow. Cutscene time! Oh, this is still so cool. Just a perfect introduction to the underwater sections. I wish there was a little bit more to do in them, but they are nice breathers for how they exist. So I can go to the outside.
In that suit, even the ocean cannot harm you. This is good. But rapture is the death of many great men. Alone, you will not last long. You can still reach the train station. Find me there.
I could have sworn there was something over here. Aha!
All right, diary. Last entry. Lizzie and I, we found a sphere, and we're going home.
A bathysphere. Basically a portable submarine. That became the cars of Rapture and replaced the Atlantic Express public transportation.
What was that? What's that sound?
She's seen us. It's land. Torpedo! Ah, trying to...
Oh, yep, no escape for you. I mean, it's kind of the opposite. Taco wants to deport people, including by illegally stripping citizenship from naturalized people and sending them to South Sudan to die in a war zone with the approval of the Supreme Court. Anyway, due to his laissez-faire attitude, another important difference with Taco, Andrew Ryan failed to see the danger in letting this wonder drug run rampant among the population until it began to affect him, by way of Fontaine exploiting people's anger at Ryan leaving them behind, excuse me. After going into hiding once his businesses were shut down, he became Atlas, the central figure they wanted to rally around, who was seen as fighting for them against the elite. But like President Taco, Atlas's populism was selfish fabrication. Andrew Ryan also thoroughly co-opted other people's life savings through endless promises and then blocked all trade with the surface, which created a sense of opportunity and post-scarcity for people at the top like Sandra Cohen, who could afford the artificially induced scarcity. He's the guy who had incredibly weird art that he made out of people. However, that strength is difficult to maintain for a long time when it largely depends on one person. As in Ryan's case, it led to the Civil War and ultimately the death at the hands of his son Jack. Also, a hapless diver from the surface named Johnny Topside was disappeared by the Ryan regime without due process of what little law existed by a libertarian consensus in Rapture, and painfully turned into our hero Subject Delta, an alpha model Big Daddy, which seems incredibly relevant given the Supreme Court administratively stays people's rights not to be renditioned to third countries. Not quite as awe-inspiring a moment as the first time you see Rapture, but still pretty cool. Anyway, I think it stands for the idea, Delta, Subject Delta's whole deal, that critics of totalitarian systems are depersonalized by the regime. Again, a man with no face. By the time of Bioshock 2 in 1969, though, good old Andrew has been dead for a decade, and as you saw at the beginning, Delta was forced to shoot himself in front of Eleanor, in front of his charge. So he's been asleep all that time. Besides, the Rapture family are more appropriate to analyze the MAGA cult's personality at present, since they promise salvation to those who believe in the Lamb, strongly enough to entice people with already drug-addled reasoning to kidnap children for the surface, and then inject them with Adam for sacrifice to Eleanor, which with enough Adam in her blood would make Eleanor God, or perhaps as deadly a weapon as an atomic bomb. Right now, like any good end-stage cult, any MAGA who have still not woken up are being told to accept any pain, including being kicked off of Medicaid, the eternal reward of liberal tears. Same as these gullible splicers I've been fighting. It's been nice to take out my frustrations in the world of video games, where I can smack around virtual cultists, and roar for Delta's entire reason for being. Protecting Eleanor and the remaining little sisters so she and they can choose their own lives, just as I am doing for my little man in Swaziland. Perhaps in Delta's context he feels some vengefulness against the other characters, but my delta will show mercy when given a choice, because I simply couldn't bring myself to disembowel children or kill any unarmed NPC. The ludonarrative gameplay as it interacts with narrative justification for you killing random splicers is that they're so far gone from Adam use that they're not even human anymore, and don't give you a choice but to kill them. You can make reasoned critiques from a general writing perspective as to uncomfortable parallels with the dehumanizing way we treat drug addicts and the mentally ill in other media, which ultimately has led to other writing problems down the road for the BioShock series as well. However, this is one of those times where the gameplay is what it is because it's a first-person shooter, where story progression requires some murder, and if you don't want to kill the splicers, you can let them kill you, but then the game ends. Anyway, my point being that the choices you make when your enemies give you a choice in return, and the variety of endings as a result, are better gauges of a player character's personality in BioShock 2, and in video games in general, than the first game's binary good-evil ending. Fair warning from here on in, the BioShock series is very weird and disturbing at times, so I understand if you need to stop watching the video after this part and listen to or read the rest. Besides, once this loads in, I need to take a moment to vent about how CFPB has been treated, which is like an ice core for evil. And drink some water, my god.
Ah, Herr Delta. You arrive as the little
Oh right,
one
she's
said you
German.
would.
This
Come
has some
upstairs
uncomfortable
to the
implications.
And I will offer
And
what I
yes,
know
she
of you.
was involved in the Nazi regime. She got to do some of her first experiments on people in concentration camps. So, you know, let that sit there for a minute as I try to bring my windows back. Stupid Macintosh. Anyway, I joined the newly formed Dream Disability Resources and Employee Accessibility Meetup Employee Resource Group almost as soon as it was established in January 2024. Finally, after 9 years of burning myself out by fitting my autism into the workplace, there was a place for disabled people like me to congregate, including a leader who is also disabled and trans, and whose talk about both in front of 85 people opened my eyes, and advocate for ourselves. And advocate we did, such as by creating a truly amazing Disability Month poster, making sure our facilities managers gave timely reports on the creation of single-user bathrooms with motorized doors, and getting former Director Cordray to speak on the role disability has played in his life with his elderly father, which was inspiring. When I was put on administrative leave on February 10th, like most of the CFPB, after Felon Muskrat pronounced it dead, 3 years after coming out, gender fluid ironically, I opened the notice from Russell Voigt and published by his lapdog, Adam Martinez, that Wednesday, that Dream, along with all other ERGs, would be disbanded. To be disbanded, and that we must remove pronouns from our email signatures as part of the illegal anti-DEIA executive orders, even though Dream never limited membership by race, sex, or any other protected category, as Voigt alleged without evidence. It was mainly a place for disabled people to have community, but those without disabilities were encouraged to join, investigating me for violations of civil rights laws and firing me for gross insubordination if I refused is still illegal under the Supreme Court's ruling in Bostock v. Clayton County, and so I decided I would explore administrative remedies such as EEOC, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, which has given up on cases for trans people, but still takes cases for disabled people, and the Merit Systems Protection Board, before suing if they tried this fascist perversion of civil rights law. However, that would be painful and stressful, and I also had my then-girlfriend and her young son to think about. But how could I look my little man in his big, bright brown eyes if I cowered?
A couple of nights ago.
When I took my oath 10 years ago and was able to solemnly affirm, rather than swear to any god, that I would preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, my mind was blown.
Most who survive are like this. Splicers. They're drug addicts. Vicious animals.
Yeah, again, not entirely comfortable with that. But that's just, again, the writing conceit that you have to accept if you want to play this game. Okay, well, time to remotely hack. Wow, that was an embarrassing hacking fail. After all this time. Wow, oh, not again. Thank you. That was incredibly annoying. Oh, I thought there would be more here, but okay, let's get out of here. Okay, I got a blue bonus to upgrade their damage, so that's nice. Anyway, I'd love seeing presidents take the oath of office back when I looked up to presidents, and again, wanted to run for that office when I was 5. Back when the office of the presidency seemed honorable and inspired the entire course of my life. This guts me like nothing else, but I'm still just numb. Since I thought I cried all the tears for this country and this burning world, but somehow I still have more. I refuse to call this a reduction in force, because that's not what it was at all. Not when I served this bureau and the American people faithfully for 10 years. Not when I was not given individualized assessment. Not when I was clearly retaliated against for my disability and gender identity. So I lodged a complaint with my Office of Civil Rights, looked up MSPB applications until my eyes dried out. I was dismayed that in the big ugly bill shit that just passed, it would cost $350 to appeal. But that was blocked by Senate parliamentarian Elizabeth McDonough, and was not looking forward to looking for jobs in the reject resumes with bots in 5 seconds economy, or filing for unemployment in the interim. I also attended the emergency union meeting at 8:30 that day because I hoped the whole appeals court would join it. Soon enough, the rift was stopped, where, as of writing, it remains in limbo in the DC circuit. In this current climate, where autistic kids are, as always, getting shot at by police, especially if they fail the paper bag test, where the 5-year-old autistic son of Kilmar Abrego Garcia had to watch his father be abducted by ICE thugs, where RFK Jr. is reviving decades-old stereotypes that autistic people will never be able to find love or work, if we even want that. It's good to know that there are still Americans like my colleague Alexis Goldstein, whose interview on The Daily Show was a profile in courage as she stood up to fascism. Just make sure there's not any danger around here. Okay. Oh! That is some crumbling infrastructure right there. Ooh, nailed it. That was close. Use the first aid kit.
This is Dr. Sofia Lamb. Andrew Ryan is dead, but the tyrant dwells within us all. Remember, we reject the gene. We reject the self. We reject the tyrant.
Reject anything the dictator does not want to tell you. Abandon your eyes and ears. It was the party's first and most essential command. 1984. I'm paraphrasing here since I don't have the quote in front of me. Yet I still grapple with how people ignored their eyes and ears and got us into this mess over again, either by staying home or voting for him, while continuing to throw federal employees and trans people under the bus. Of course, there's the Middle East of it all, but I'll be making a massive live stream just on the Israel-Iran war, with historical context in October, to see how this naughty and emotionally impossible war has spiraled by then. You see, until the moment I dropped out, I backed Joe Biden to the ultimately bitter hilt. I think that if Democrats wanted to run him again, they should have leaned into FDR's old slogan of not changing horses in midstream. Since Biden passed the most legislation in decades to actually improve America in a closely divided Congress, and now the Inflation Reduction Act that was supposed to bring green jobs to the economy is being ripped up root and branch because they've just decided that jobs are not important as long as Orange Taco says otherwise. I mean, honestly, the strategy then, with the liability of his age, would it be to have Kamala be the whistle-stop campaigner while he had a McKinley-style porch campaign at the White House? More on that later. Because that's what the Vice President of the United States is for! Living to replace the President. And breaking ties in the Senate, as J.D. Vance has couch-safed. Perhaps I was biased by being in federal service for the past 9 years before that. Or that I could see where they were going and tried to make the argument for them with empathy and facts. Or my hope that people would put aside their online squabbles, see the rising costs of living as something Taco had no actual plans to fix, and rally for the only democratic choice. Things like his poor TV performances, with people ignoring that he could talk for 90 minutes straight at addresses nobody bothered to watch, were the main story and were the epitome of shallow online discourse. None of these reporters mentioned he'd been traveling for hours straight while not being very comfortable with delegating, which probably a lot of it was lack of sleep aggravating his existing stutter. Yes, this was also not helped by his age, but it was all very treated with very ableist language that infuriates me as an autistic person, since he accomplished so many things and still got treated like garbage by shallow journalists. And most importantly, they ignored Taco barely speaking complete sentences at all, just because he looked good on TV one time. This age fracas in Gaza undermined voter enthusiasm in dangerous ways, but those were not the main factors for his failure in my opinion. Once again, it's the economy, stupid. Or lack thereof in this deep dark hole.
I know you. That symbol on your
Ah,
hand
here's the
marks
man with no
intent.
face speech.
10
I believe.
years, Subject Delta, since I watched you put a gun to your head and pull the trigger.
Yeah, no, that's my favorite thing to do during this.
Out of your pain,
Is smash most of the TVs.
Paradise was born. I don't know how you survived, but your suffering is over now.
Uh-oh.
These men will ease your burden. Please understand that like all I have done, this is an act of love.
If you can delude yourself to say that, you can delude yourself
It is
to
Sofia
say
Lamb.
anything.
She has found you.
Very clever inversion of the same sequence in Bioshock 1, where you had to... Oh no, I died. Or not. There we go. Oh, I am in a very bad way, though. Oh, right. I have regained control. Cool. I mean, on top of it being an extraordinarily terrible year for incumbents, after a decade of right-wing populism in the wake of Taco and Brexit, and associated propaganda machines, I didn't bother listening to the right-wing pods, so I saw problematic shifts in Taco among young men and people of color, but thought they were smaller and, again, thought people weren't so fucking oblivious as to vote for a guy who literally said he wanted to throw his political enemies in jail and rule
Now
like a
you know
dictator
of the
for
enemy
one
you
day.
share. Sofia Lamb. The camera in your helmet allows me to watch through your eyes and help you to fight her.
For the 5 seconds you're actually in the game, Tenenbaum. Sucks, unfortunately. But, I mean, I know exactly why people buy into these narratives now. To lick some crumbs from the floor of the rich as long as the only crumb lickers are cis, white, and straight. The main flaw of Biden's messaging was the tone deafness around inflation since 2021. These communication issues were never impossible to fix, but they should have been addressed right away. However, I think the reason that Biden tried to downplay inflation was because Republicans were trying to pin inflation entirely on the American Rescue Plan that saved us from COVID depression, but they may have gone a little bit overboard. So he tried to put it all on corporate price gouging, which didn't ring true either. Like any large and complex societal problem, inflation has multiple causes but no easy solutions. Dictators promise easy solutions. They do. Anyway, let me just make sure I save. But that's exactly why so many people are going towards Taco.
Careful.
Oh no, I don't have any
Security
fucking darts.
cameras belong to Lamb. But if you are clever, they can be made to serve you.
Oh. Okay, there we go. Let me just quickly save scum. Okay.
Ray.
Okay, well, now get a security bot sent at you.
You think I won't slug you one? Let's fix your face, baby. I mean, I can wait.
Oh boy.
Well, come on. Where'd you get? Where are you?
Time to pick up some money and a first aid kit. Maybe, oh, I mean, look at all those growths. Ew. Ugh. Adam does disgusting things to the body, it seems. Just so many mutations, just cancers everywhere. These people probably don't have very long left, but again, they aren't giving me any choice. So anyway, for every large-scale social change, there's a mainstream and counterculture. Taco does well when he's perceived as counterculture and flounders as the establishment. And in this case, kids think he's on their side, either rebelling against the forced mainstreaming of, in their opinion, queer people and woke thought, which they love because it makes people upset with trolling. But now that he's acting like a dictator, white supremacist and Christian nationalist thought is being shoved in the mainstream, and there is already another counterculture movement against him. This used to be generational. See the 60s hippie reaction against 50s mainstream Protestant patriarchal thought, which then was faced with the Christian conservative counter-revolution of the late 70s and 80s. But the terrifying ease of creating content with AI combined with algorithmic spread on social media could be making these transformations more rapid and dramatic, as well as more difficult to stamp out due to the open nature of the internet, even if you're Facebook's bow. Time to get some mail.
Father,
from Eleanor.
It's me, Eleanor. I know you're awake in there. I can feel it. Mother won't be able to toy with you like that ever again.
Thanks, Eleanor.
This plasmid is for you. If I'm right, you can use it now. Please, find me.
Oh, that 2010's facial modeling. Oh, how does this happen again? Apparently a jar of fireflies for some reason. Ooh, coffee. That refills your Eve, which is the processed Adam. How clever. To turn Adam into Eve for use as plasmid drug fuel. Yikes. Anyway, there will be protests against this regime, no matter what. As Hungary showed us when 100,000 people rallied for LGBTQ rights right after the government banned public assemblies that promote such in March. And even after the dictatorship got in full swing, Hitler wanted the illusion of unanimous public support, and so gave in to protester demands from Aryan Germans sometimes to prevent them from growing larger. Even as late as 1943 with the mass Rosenstrasse protest against deportation of intermarried Jewish men in Berlin. The reason the protest was not crushed was because of a concurrent bombing by the British RAF but more importantly, the size of the crowd made it impossible to arrest so many without people noticing. The mass protest is a key tactic for any resistance. Hence why I signed up for the general strike in 5051, went to my first protest in years outside the CFPB headquarters on April 19th, which felt fantastic, and am going again on July 17th after doing May 5th and yeah, I think it was May 5th, something like that, and then June 14th. Plus, I learned this fact from a fellow protester on April 5th, so appreciate the information that protest networking can bring. Yeah, no, it was not May. It was definitely the April one that I went to first. Well, yeah. But the other thing was that Hitler brought economic stability back to Germany, at least in public perception, by destroying unions, exploiting slave labor, working hand in glove with industry, and pivoting to military production. The latter also got the US out of the Great Depression along with the New Deal, but we had a far greater ability to do so to begin with. And I'll cover FDR later. This is a typical dictatorial trade-off. Greater economic security, or personal security, for less political freedom. Get exploded. Oh, don't explode in my face! Oh, well, that exploded in my face! Oops. Explodinated. Alrighty then. I think that's over. So, we've seen this kind of trade-off everywhere from Rome to Napoleonic France to Putin's Russia. As long as you keep quiet, buy stuff, and don't speak up, the illusion is that you'll be fine. Standards of living on the home front in Germany didn't really start to deteriorate until 1943 due to the wholesale shipment of food from starving Slavs on the Eastern Front. Here's another historical example. Since I mentioned Rome, that demonstrates what happens when the citizenry doesn't care about the descent into anarchy. Or about being exploded. Such as, anyway. For most of the, fall of the Western Roman Empire, other than the sacks of 410, that one under Emperor Honorius, who apocryphally mourned the deaths of his chickens while Rome burned, didn't impact the city of Rome itself, apart from the lessened grain shipments with the loss of Africa to the Vandals in 439. However, despite the great public buildings being mostly intact, Romans disassembled more of them than the Vandals destroyed in the sack of 455 for cruder housing, which became such a problem that Emperor Majorian banned it in 458. By the time of the actual fall of the Western Roman Empire in 476 to 480, long story, the empire only loosely controlled Italy, which had been ravaged by famine multiple times, and the citizens of Rome, 800,000 in 410, from its peak of 1 million, due to the migration of 200,000 people to Constantinople when that was founded in 330-ish, yeah, in the 300s. Let's see. Time to hack you open. There we go, free first aid kit, and I can also smash this for another one. There we go. Okay. I mean, people welcomed the stability the Gothic kings brought until the Eastern Romans and Byzantines messed it all up when they reunified in 536. But again, by the time those Gothic kings took power, the city had fallen to 300,000 people in 476. There was actually a third sack, too, that was done by Ricimer, the Romanized Germanic Magister Militum, who ended up killing most emperors he controlled. He also ended the last best chance at a resurgence the Western Empire had by killing Majorian, who single-handedly reconquered Gaul and Spain for the Empire and almost recaptured Africa and its all-important grain shipments, until mercenaries paid off by the Vandal king Gaiseric, which made up the entire Roman army by this point, because people just didn't care. Set the invasion fleet on fire on August 7th, 461. Well, the fire was not that. The Majorian's death was at the hands of Ricimer. The Elon comparisons write themselves, but Taco is far from a Hitler or even a Majorian, except in his demented mind. Instead, he's a modern-day Honorius, who only ever cared for the approval of his dumb MAGA chickens. So he doesn't care who he hurts as long as they perceive that his enemies, which he has effectively made their own through brainwashing in similar ways that you've seen to how Sofia Lamb does it, has effectively made their own enemies through brainwashing are hurting. The play of these modern-day vandals is violate rights and make them sue us, because it's expensive, and now the Supreme Court is giving them an assist, but that's why you should donate to legal aid groups and nonprofits like the ACLU. While it is concerning that nationwide class actions are tougher to get than injunctions and may be restricted by the Supremes, another route still open to district court judges is the Administrative Procedure Act, which permits courts to set aside any federal agency actions that violate the law, including rules, regulations, and memos laying out new procedures. So even if the birthright citizenship is allowed to take effect in the states that aren't part of the class, while the Supreme Court takes its sweet little time getting to the merits of the plainly unconstitutional order that they should have gotten rid of in Trump v. Casa, implementation can still be blocked. This restored CDC webpage is about trans people, even with a whingy little notice, which is typical of how this administration splits hairs while dragging its feet on court orders. And asylum for most border seekers of such. This also means that most illegal rifts, including my own, are largely enjoined. The courts are still working 96% of the time.
These people are hooked on some kind of genetic wonder drug called Adam.
Here we go. More about splicers.
Scribbled on walls like a warning. One of them
MAGA
cornered me
on the walls like a warning.
His face. I had a gun, but I choked. And then out of nowhere, we both heard this singing. And he took off like hell on wheels. It sounded like a kid.
Oh, okay, nice shortcut.
A little girl. Cindy's alive. I know it in my gut.
So yeah, this guy went down to Rapture in a submarine to pick up his daughter, who had been kidnapped by Sofia Lim and the Splicers. So there you go. We'll see if he managed to get her out successfully later. But as for me, my oath is to the Constitution and to the people of the United States of America, and I'm staying until the bitter end. If they fire me, then the Hatch Act doesn't apply anymore, and I shall become more outspoken than they could possibly imagine. As I try to figure out where I'm supposed to be going. That's always been my big problem with video games sometimes. Yeah, I might as well use it now. Okay, well, what am I supposed to be doing here? Oh! Well, that big, giant metal door answered that question for me.
Sofia Lamb is using the splicers against you. Most big daddies are like her slaves.
Why are there
guarding
sardines in the
little
toilet?
ones.
Those must be disgusting.
But someone has awakened you.
It has to be telekinesis that I need to use. Oops, sorry, buddy. I didn't mean to explode you.
I know of your bond with Eleanor Delta. To save
Oh yeah, they're
yourself,
chemically bonded
you will come for
by
her.
the mental conditioning
But
between
Eleanor
big
has
daddies
a
and little
destiny,
sisters.
one you cannot share. There is no place for you in paradise.
I don't know why the audio is crackling a little bit, but hopefully it's not too distracting on the actual video later. A lot of the problem with live streaming for me is that it's very difficult to know when the audio is good or not until after the live stream. So please bear with me if it turns out to have problems. I always try to improve as a creator and appreciate any support, including liking, subscribing, and hitting the bell if you've watched my content so far, because that will really help with the algorithm, which is very determined to keep content like this off of the front page. Anyway, in Taco's idiotic stamping of his feet, he's earning his own supporters because blue states that oppose him pay out more in federal taxes than they receive in federal aid. So he's disproportionately hurting his own base in his confusion.
Quickly, head for the elevator.
After I shoot these guys. I can't believe I hit that guy with his friend. Oh crap. I gotta go for the elevator. Sorry. Get out of here. Oh no. Oh, I think... Okay. I'm safe in the elevator shaft now.
Now.
Okay.
Here is what the children tell me. You are a very old Big Daddy, bonded for life to a single little one. When you are apart for too long,
I may have to
your
shut down
body
my
begins to shut down
headset
like a
for a little
coma.
bit.
As long as the girl is in the rapture, you are trapped here as well. The name of your little one is Eleanor Lamb, daughter of Sofia. She is kept at Fontaine Futuristics on the other side of the city.
Okay, that is not getting rid of the buzzing, but I'm just gonna have to grin and bear it.
Before it is too late.
But yeah, he appears not to have realized that the work requirement for Medicaid was in the bill that he just signed because he's a fucking moron. But he's also not realizing that you need compliant civil servants to carry out your will and respond to crises. So cutting them reduces his ability to control things. Which is why he had to, rehire nuclear safety inspectors, which you would think would be obvious, but no. Doge just wanted to cut, regardless of the consequences. And so, blue states will hurt, but they have always been net contributors to the Treasury, as I mentioned, and so will weather it. The Medicaid cuts would mean that payments for home health aides for my 98-year-old grandfather with dementia would cease, for instance. But there are other resources in my home state. Between massed opposition by state governments, tariff-fueled inflation, the plausibility of another once-in-a-century pandemic due to bird flu, mass unemployment of federal workers / end of trillions in federal grants, climate change, and so much more, the economic stability necessary for people to surrender their freedom en masse is vanishingly unlikely. However, back to my main working theory for the 2024 election loss, which has a lot of support. The right's decades-old misinformation machine is exploiting sudden societal changes and post-pandemic economic displacement of adults who read at a below 6th grade level to come up with yet another boogeyman or woman in person for them to punch down at. Is the economy stupid? But again, they found a reason other than actual facts to blame for economic misfortune. Namely, that trans people exist and are allowed in sports, I guess. Anyway. Oh man, I do not like this fight. Because I always stress out about trap rivet placement. So I'm going to take a break from the game for a little bit and talk more about that decades-old misinformation machine. Due to the decoupling of race and class in messaging after the fall of the Soviet Union, BLM, critical race theory, which did originate in academia, and probably sounds confusing and alien if you have a 6th grade education, and all related DEI efforts were caricatured. BLM was too disconnected from a unified race class narrative to avoid most of its societal and economic gains going to rich people, white or black anyway, who then divided black, Latino, and white men without college educations against everyone else due to economic resentment. A classic tactic used by slave owners to keep poor white people from questioning slavery by saying slaves would take their jobs, or dividing house and field slaves against each other. This done with billions in right-wing dark monies in Citizens United, which was a travesty for democracy. Because this was a new and by virtue of being very online, messy, and fragmentary wave of civil rights movement, these assertions were not countered correctly by overpriced consultants doing ineffectual workplace trainings, or a handful of overly online 20-somethings getting rage-baited into shouting matches on the racist Dead Bird platform. When I came out non-binary in 2022, for instance, I spent more time having to reassure people who thought I was going to erupt at them over honest mistakes over pronouns than arguing with one person about pronouns. On the other side of the coin were white people sans college education, a culture I'm familiar with because my dad was the first in a centuries-long line of farmers to go to college and live in the suburbs, while a good chunk of that side of the family accepts me in their own way. Got angry over the concept that they did anything wrong, that their hard work was privileged, these people, or that their favorite media needed to change. They didn't like that. And others were trying to give them a crash course on the American history they didn't learn in 6th grade. This only benefited rich white people due to the crabs in a barrel effect, as infighting among lower economic classes always has. Think, for instance, of poor white Southerners being duped into supporting and dying for slavery, so plantation owners who lied and said black freemen would take their jobs could buy their way out of the Civil War. This was something which, as a visit to the Tenant Museum refreshed my memory of, also led to draft riots in New York in 1863. Because, again, rich people could pay $300 to have somebody else serve in the military for them back then. The damage for that was largely blamed on Irish people just trying to provide for their families and maybe do a little tap dancing inspired by their black friends. Those same Irish then turned around and became white to turn on Southern and Eastern Europeans when they arrived in the 1880s. It was that caricature of real inclusivity that was rejected in the modern day rather than the real and messy history of civil rights. Because that resentment is... Let me see. Probably going to lower the master volume a little bit. And now it's a little bit less buzzy in my ears, at least. But yeah, the resentment is what poor white people received from Fox News and Joe Rogan and all the rest. They therefore got incredibly frustrated that, in their perception, an important note here, they were locked out of government assistance programs for minorities, or university placements due to affirmative action, among other things. Or that the handful of black soldiers honored by our government got any honors at all with our precious Confederate heritage was removed from the public square. Or that people who were dressed funny were shock, horror, reading to children. Combine that with failing cultural expectations of having and being the breadwinner for a wife and family. Yes, women are more accepted in the workplace, but have you ever noticed how it's not similarly acceptable or economically feasible for men to stay home and take care of the kids a lot of the time? Due to lacking economic opportunity after the pandemic, probably caused distress for a lot of men. At the same time, these early cultural efforts at inclusivity, while not upsetting still very white-dominated Hollywood power structures, were occasionally clunky for reasons quite aside from the fact that they were diverse people behind the scenes, such as not having an overarching story plan for the Star Wars sequels to build on with the constant director changes, said by a white author who was working on a book with 2 black authors that fell apart, and regrets not having an overarching plan myself. Because Hollywood is still very unused to writing diversity, and so oftentimes put in bare minimum effort, they also decided to paint any legitimate criticism in with racist or sexist backlash to protect that. Now the media oligarchs are already walking all that back to costs. Cancel any mention of the word trans to avoid legal racketeering of the kind Taco is pulling on the Skydance and Paramount merger to muzzle CBS for a single interview that personally offended him, and go for boring, safe, all audiences entertainment again, to actually make money on their streaming services. I called this the MasterCard Pride effect last year after how revolted I was by seeing such a corporate float in my first DC Pride last year. But it's clear Disney never had our backs either if people weren't paying attention to 6-second gay kisses getting censored overseas. I feel even more disgusted that MasterCard didn't even pretend with Pride anymore this year for fear of backlash from the Taco administration. So it was an easy target to red pill people who, according to them, just want to live and not be bothered by name-calling, by skipping all that nuance and saying that the reason Star Wars isn't good anymore is because of black people and women, when that's laughable as Lando and Leia are right there. And it's on YouTube and free and accessible with low literacy, unlike the traditional news media that has largely locked itself behind paywalls and or made deals with the LLM devil to survive. The thing is also that black men and Latino men did shift Republican in the election, in large part because they felt taken for granted by the Democrats and didn't feel like Biden was addressing economic inequality or police brutality. Now Democrats have an opportunity to not just wait around for the GOP to trip over their own feet, but show just how hollow that bill of goods they were sold was, as the one big ugly bullshit rolls downhill, and explain at a basic level what they will do differently if they take back control of Congress and eventually the presidency, while standing up to real bullies instead of fighting each other, as Zoran Mandami just did recently when Taco threatened to arrest him as part of fascist dinner theater. It's easy to pick on people who voted differently than you. And I also hope that the 2 black teenagers who attacked me on the metro in DC for wearing a skirt this time last year saw the error of their ways. But if wishes were horses, then we would all ride. So if we want to change minds, we have to earn it. One painful phone call, social media outreach, and careful canvas at a time. Back to the game for a bit.
You see? This is why I must fight.
Oh, right. I probably should have put the trap rivets down before all of that.
For something. And I have returned to rescue them. If I do not, more children will die for my sins. And the rapture nightmare will repeat forever. Now, we must talk.
Citizens of Rapture, this is Subject Delta.
Okay, this must be the man with no face. Or maybe not. That's okay. Behind that mask. Yeah, well, what do the liberals have to hide with masks while ice mask agents are running around brutalizing people?
Lamb will take this place apart to fight you. Please hold back the splicers until we escape.
Alright, quickly. Well, now you're a trap rivet, buddy. Enjoy.
Yeah, that's it. Feels like when someone
Oh boy, this is not good. I might die. I forgot how hard this game could be because I used to beat it so easily. Even on hard. I'm probably not gonna do like Survivor difficulty for BioShock 1 because of that. Oh, that was close.
Thank you. Now I must leave you, and I am sorry for this. But there are others I must help before the city drowns.
Oof,
This man
okay, that was
Sinclair,
close.
he is
I almost
an
got
ally,
spotted by the
and
camera.
We'll guide you to Eleanor. Goodbye, Herr Delta. And good luck.
Okay. Let me save. Man, this is close. But yeah.
Well, look at you. A bona fide knight in armor, complete with iron horse. The name's Augustus Sinclair Sport, Esquire. Old Tannenbaum and I share an interest
I liked
in the
Sinclair,
old
but I
Fontaine
think I would have
building,
liked
the
Tannenbaum a
very
little bit
same
longer
place you'll find
before he got
Eleanor
introduced.
Lamb. I think you and I can do business. Take the train to Ryan Amusements. I'll see you shortly.
The sound isn't really working great anyway, so gonna put it even lower. I don't know why this is, because I'm capturing directly from my console. But well, I'll keep looking into it because I don't want that to be a problem for the second live stream. I may do the installation of BioShock on Steam, but I'm a bit nervous about the performance in Parallels compared to the native version, the native Windows PC version that would probably need to run better. Let's purchase some items then. Trying to get another one. That red zone would have started a security alert, so I'm glad that that didn't happen. Yeah, I don't know what it is, but the game's audio is completely broken down on me, so I gotta just get rid of it. This sucks because there is a lot of very interesting audio in BioShock 2, and the other BioShock games, but there are subtitles. It's just so annoying. Anyway, the midterms are not going to be rigged, especially indicated by the fact that Republicans, in their one big ugly bill shit, have put off many of the Medicaid cuts until 2027, smashing as much as they can before leaving so that they can blame Democrats for it and then get power back in 2028 in Congress, and frustrate a Democratic president, and then never have any kind of plan, like how they harped uselessly on immigration in 2018 and inflation in 2022 while opposing practically every solution there actually was. Even really the Inflation Reduction Act, because that was supposed to bring jobs to red states. No, still with this problem. Hopefully it doesn't come through too badly, but we shall see. Oh dear. Let me try quitting and restarting and see if that fixes it. Because the normal audio coming in from the console is fine. It's just this game, for some reason, that appears to be crackling. But yeah, now so many GOP congressmen are retiring rather than dealing with this roller coaster anymore, and it's giving me hope. Oh yeah, this is where we have to get the incinerate plasmid. I'm not sure I'll be able to complete this whole level before I end the stream and stuff like that, but if you want to keep playing with BioShock games and want to see somebody playing them, then definitely follow me on HistoryFlights Productions and set the bell. Anyway.
You'll need a plasmid like a handful of hellfire. We used to sell a fine old product called Incinerate in the amusement park up yonder. Go on and find a way in. I've already been on all the rides.
Heh, clever. Okay, let's save. Oh yeah, the Ryan Amusements. This is a pretty good opportunity to, like, show how the dictator insinuated himself into all aspects of culture. I may have to restart my console for this. But hopefully it shouldn't take too long or anything like that. In the meantime, I was told the Democratic candidate in my district couldn't win back in 2012. You know how I helped win my race? Two simple things, yet they seem so hard for Democrats now. I'm an independent because I'm exasperated with them. It's as simple as, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? Okay. Alright. Okay, yeah. Everything is going wrong with the audio for some reason. I do not know why. I'm really sorry about this. But, I'm probably going to have to, once this game loads and such... Oh, such a classic title screen. And ported by Digital Extremes. They did a good job. I think they may have also been responsible for the... No, it might have been Blind Squirrel just by themselves for the Switch port, which I have yet to play myself. Maybe I'll do that for Bioshock 1, see if that helps with the audio issues, because I haven't been having any direct capture audio issues with Bioshock, or just, well, excuse me, with Mario Kart World on Switch. I'm hoping I don't have any capture issues with Bioshock 1, but yeah. It's unfortunate. It really is. Because, yeah, this music is unrecognizably bad now. Oh. Yeah, unlike the first game, hacking does not pause it, which is actually kind of clever. Okay, well, again, I think we've come to the inevitable conclusion that the audio is borked, and I have to just deal with this now. I'm sorry. Okay. Are you better off than you were 4 years ago? Simple question, relating the candidate's message to the local concerns of people in a rural rock-ribbed red town, and the effective use of technology by taking down canvassing information on my iPad and then uploading it back at headquarters was helpful for the campaign. The first one is hard on a national scale because trying to get anyone to pay attention is hard in our fragmented information environment. And the second is hard even at a local scale because the information environment is so fragmented it's difficult to meet people. But after learning some hard lessons from the Florida special elections, such as remembering that you're only going to get maybe 10% responses when you canvass by phone or in person, and then 10% of those will have actually voted or indicate that they plan to. I'm building up my skills for this fight again by phone banking for Gin to be in when the time comes, as I think that's very winnable. This means he would need to expend, President Taco, would need to expend significant military force in order to truly be a dictator. And even if he didn't face arrest under the Uniform Code of Military Justice as a result, not a single soldier defected to the rebels and there were no other conflicts. The U.S. military crushed Afghanistan and Iraq's armies in a matter of weeks, months, and then spent 20 years to fail to defeat insurgencies. Now, onto that, America's varied geography and cultures and all that, and you get a very volatile mixture for guerrilla warfare for decades. All chilling possibilities, to be sure, but we're nowhere near that yet. And in this early stage, he knows how to talk the populist talk, but not walk the populist walk. Presenting significant opportunities for Democrats in the midterms, which he just said are still going to be a thing, and he's told his voters to go out and vote at the Independence Day rally. Especially now that the big ugly bullshit has been plopped in the toilet of our economy, there's a lot of opportunity for explaining how Republicans are taxing you at the expense of the rich by getting rid of your Medicaid. That is a very ridiculous proposition that that it happened again, but the only major legislation that was passed last time was also a tax cut for billionaires. So the fact that it took this long and was so narrow, it gives me hope. And most likely Taco backs down, but I am still nervous that he won't let a Democratic Congress impeach and remove him when ICE, which has now been given $170 billion, there's so much for Department of Government Efficiency crap, seems to love arresting Democrats to intimidate them. And they were about to run out of money, so, ooh, there we go. Okay. Yeah, the clip size is fine for that. I just need a damage upgrade. Just gonna keep testing the... Nope. Anyway. So. At that point, the states affected would need to decide whether they had the right and duty to throw off such government. Whatever it takes to preserve government by, of, and for the people. I hope that's still an electoral manner followed by impeachment. but history has shown that dictators do not easily acquiesce to democratic forces. I want to save the likelihoods and implications of dictator doom loops and political violence for the last live stream in Bioshock Infinite, though, because that's very fitting with how the revolution is actually in progress during the game. And because this whole situation has me listless yet full of enervated energy, like a top constantly spinning to stay in place. On the other hand, it also makes me even more determined than ever to fight this unconstitutional, illegal, and fascist regime in any way that I can. So let me just do that. Okay. After months of research in this case, I wish I could do literally anything else, but it's like I can't relax for even a single day without some relentless power grab behind the scenes. With the courts thankfully exposing and blocking most of them until the Supreme Court in Taco Casa peeled back that fingernail democracy is hanging on. Kind of hard to enjoy things while thinking that you might have to sue as a class to have any rights. In the same avalanche of awful, I am alarmed by even the suggestion of an autism registry, even if it has been withdrawn. Yet, more so for my high support needs Vietnamese cousin rather than myself. Yet as someone silenced for my whole life by ABA counselors, I had to speak out about it. As I did in a previous live stream, around the time that the Nintendo Switch 2 was being pre-ordered. Because I had to do a 20-minute PSA about that. And then on top of that, trans civil rights are constantly being expanded in court because we're politically inconvenient, due to the DNC establishment, who sidestepped when the blatantly transphobic and untrue Kamala is for they, them smear ads appeared on national television. Seeing that during the World Series made me delirious with rage. However, Scrimeti is just one expected setback on a road at them as red states turn us into punching bags while vigilante cis women violate privacy rights in the very stalls they claim to be protecting. Of cis women, mostly, with no evidence of wide-scale crimes by trans people. So, to a hypothetical scared trans teenager wondering what's next, my thought is, if you're going to be pushed one step back, you might as well walk 2 steps forward. Even if you must shave until your face hurts and wear inserts to be taken seriously. Even if you must wait until you're adult to make these choices. In the meantime, please don't kill yourself, okay? We can make gains even still and constantly strive to do so. Being ourselves and staying visible is how we'll survive. They cannot erase us if we refuse to take violations of our civil rights lying down. Like how the Amazing Queens bombed Taco's incredibly ironic appearance at Les Mis in Kennedy Center. Ooh, right, the machine gun. I'm so glad I got that. It's a very interesting adaptation of the Tommy gun, and you can get machine gun rounds from that, which is kind of ridiculous because the Tommy gun is actually a submachine gun and would not, in fact, have 50 caliber rounds. It would be pistol bullets. That's what a submachine gun is. It's an automatic firing of pistol bullets with an automatic magazine. Uh-oh, crap. And I'm dead. Great. Let's see. Yeah, I probably should have saved a little bit more, but it wasn't a big thing. Anyway, if you need resources, advice, and perspective, and it's not an emergency, I would say call the hotline, but the Rancid Taco is going to get rid of that, so perhaps 911? My DMs are open on Reddit at official DCSHEPARD. Also, to quote from The Hill, the Supreme Court did not endorse the entirety of the lower court's ruling. It did not mandate or even greenlight other bans on gender-affirming medical care, even for young people, or any other form of discrimination. Karen Lowley, Senior Counsel and Director of Lambda Legal's Constitutional Law Practice, said, "It really is about how it viewed Tennessee's in this specific way, and left us plenty of other tools to fight bans on trans healthcare, and other discriminatory actions that target transgender people, including other equal protection arguments about transgender status discrimination, about the animus-based targeting of trans people." Lowy added in the article that the court's ruling also left the door open to arguments based on state and federal sex discrimination statutes and parental rights, which the justices did not address Wednesday. Also, it seems like the more people hear about Taco, the more they remember why they didn't like him, as if the memories of millions of people dying of COVID, or the January 6th insurrection to overthrow the election, With the highest turnout in American history, or his multiple felonies were not enough, we needed to see him bomb Iran or tariff the entire world without congressional approval, I guess, and gut federal agencies and close them in all but name. And want something to be done. They want something to be done about him, if only because many people have been directly affected by his demented chaos, know someone who has or has heard about some obviously corrupt or fascist shit. Continuing mass nationwide protests, combined with a general strike of 3% of population, or both, either that or both, may just make Republican congressmen and senators already caught between Taco's dementia-riddled government by social media proclamation and violence-prone fan base, and Musk's pronouncement that he wants to fire everyone who votes for the big ugly Bill shit, which threatens to destroy the GOP and the clash between Taco's ego, must-savior complex and the blue wave that's building behind the scenes, very nervous about which way the wind could blow. Yeah. So, let me grab that. There we go. Nice free Eve hypo. Well, I'll come back with more money, buddy. Unfortunately, the sounds for that were accidentally deleted in an original build of this. Anyway. It is a little harder to fight these enemies without sound, for sure. But I think I can do it. And then I'll find a convenient place to save and end the stream. But first, searching some desks for some potted meat should restore my health a little bit. Maybe some more cash. Moolah. Okay. I've never seen the bar this close to empty, so I'll just be very careful not to use that until necessary, so I don't get caught in the middle of reloading too badly. Anyway. So, Elon versus Taco. Now that Elon has formed his America Party, it's basically 1912 all over again. Back then, outgoing President Teddy Roosevelt helped his political ally William Howard Taft defeat William Jennings Bryan's third candidacy in 1908. He had previously run twice against McKinley, Teddy's old boss, before he was assassinated in 1901. Then he came back from hunting African animals at local extinction levels to basically say, "Thanks for keeping the presidency warm for me. Can I have the nomination now?" But Taft got the Republican boss's nod instead because there weren't primaries at the time, and he was friendlier to their interests. Elon's transparent idiocy, drug-fueled rantings, deep reliance on government contracts, and possible revenge denaturalization by Trump could prevent this from really taking hold. But let's imagine Elon Musk's America Party, like Teddy's Bull Moose Party, only picks off voters from his former teammates' team, Republican voters, as those are most closely ideologically aligned with him. There are other discussions between Republicans and centrist Democrats about forming a third party, but as usual, Elon was not invited. Teddy, after getting shot in the chest and famously being saved by his speech, got 88 electoral votes in California, Pennsylvania, and the Midwest. Taft, again the incumbent president at the time, got 8 from Utah and Vermont. A bookish Princeton professor and massive racist named Woodrow Wilson got the other 435 and became president due to William Howard Taft and Teddy Roosevelt fighting each other. That's why any intra-party fighting is self-defeating. Things are very different from then to now due to the distorting effects of the Electoral College. Let me grab some more. Or, yeah, I think I had to get that later. Okay, grab that. Alright, cool. Anyway, things are very different from then to now due to the distorting effects of the Electoral College and the fact that this election is a midterm, so there will certainly be lower turnout. But my point is that now that Elon is primarying his own team, Democrats get this Wilsonian blue wave that special elections like the Supreme Court seat in Wisconsin Elon tried to buy are increasingly pointing to as a likely outcome. Or at least in the House of maybe 15 to 20 seats. The Senate will be harder, but Republican senators are increasingly trying to distance the Senate from the president after getting the bag. Or I suppose fishing nets in Lisa Murkowski's case. May she rest in hell for her vote. As the Senate does. Or even quitting like Tom Tillis, with candidate quality being a huge problem going forward for the... yes, admit one for Ryan Amusements. Or even quitting like Tom Tillis, with candidate quality being a huge problem going forward for the maggot-infested corpse of the GOP. Without any competent leadership in the RNC right now due to Taco's destruction of any administrative structures that limit his immediate impulses, functionally the Republican Party becomes balkanized between two rival billionaires, leading to more contentious and exhausting primaries with money spent against each other rather than Democrats. And that's functionally no different in a system with only two choices. Meanwhile, Democrats, no different than voting for Democrats, I suppose. Meanwhile, Democrats can hopefully reform primaries, field younger candidates with experience dealing with this economy who plan to investigate and remove these criminals and restore people's faith in government by promising to renew the rule of law for a more small d democratic, equal and independent future. I understand why she has had a dimmer view of America. Being on a continent brutally oppressed by the West for centuries will definitely make you skeptical of holier-than-thou pronouncements about democracy and human rights from those same countries. Yet I must fight for a better future with all my might, until my baby bird will be able to tell the world her story through her unique and raw poetry without fear of deportation. And if it's the last thing I ever do, my little man will live in a free America, and to paraphrase Dr. King, not be judged by the color of his skin, but by the adorableness of his heart. An America where his parents can love him no matter what their gender, and where he isn't denied opportunity, such as the medical care he was denied via the closure of USAID, which could kill 300,000 people. Anywhere from that to 14 million, depends on how many HIV cuts you want to have. Or for being an African or black or anything else that's disfavored by President Taco. Where he can build and play the Lego Sonic, Spider-Man, and Batman playsets that my mom got for him with me, and watch cartoons like Coco, which made me cry, and color and hug me and say, "Daddy, I love you," like he did each morning of that one dreamy trip to South Africa that I took the first week of May to finally see them after 7 months of long-distance dating of Baby Bird. Oh, gosh. There we go. Well, that's all my machine gun bullets gone, but at least these splicers are hopefully toast for good. So, there we go. Oh, yeah, it's hard without sound, but I can still do this. Anyway. Just gonna watch out for any further red arrows, but I think I'm in the clear to start wrapping up the stream. Then someday I hope that little man can be an engineer or a writer or whatever he wants to be, because that has to be what it means to pursue happiness. I was dismayed by the fact that I couldn't put an X on my passport when I renewed it before my trip to South Africa to finally meet them. But I'm glad that a judge blocked that, even if the government is slow-walking reform by indefinitely delaying processing. So I would still not try to change your passport yet. I was also inclined against doing so myself anyway, because I was afraid of being discriminated against in Dubai, where I had a 2-hour and then a 21-hour layover. So your mileage may vary. I hope he doesn't fucking ban travel to Swaziland either, because that would suck. But nothing will stop me from seeing my family. I hope I don't get illegally terminated again, but I will somehow find a way to support them. I hope I don't get attacked again, but I'm not going to stop worrying what I want. I hope I can someday soon read more books than news, but outlets like this are an important way for me to vent, and that needs research. I hope America can heal its divides eventually, but I will be an American, where I may not know that I'm free anymore, but I'm mad as hell and I'm not taking it anymore, until my dying day. Because having reflected on this ever since the election, being American is about the pursuit. You're not guaranteed happiness, economic security, or even civil rights unless you fight for it. And that can be exhausting, and I wish that society was more equitable. Yet not fighting risks me falling apart completely, and so this is how I'm fighting. In conclusion, Taco, while being given a dangerous amount of room to maneuver by the Supreme Court in ways that will have lasting damage to our constitutional order, is not as invincible as the media likes to make him out to be. The big ugly Bill shit will crater the GOP. He's also doing things that are so obviously corrupt out in the open because he personally doesn't care about who else he hurts. And will probably die a free man that he's frustrated his own goals like the fucking moron this man is, and always has been. Because when you're rich, when things are easy, when they're handled by AI, your brain atrophies. I've never wanted to write more when it's not clear that people will actually have the time to read or watch anything longer than a minute when they have a friendly little AI that can just give them the answer. Not discounting, of course, that AIs are prone to hallucination, which means that they just make up shit confidently because it's words that are related to each other. It literally doesn't know what the truth is, so it's just confidently spewing lies at an incredible rate. But you know what? I've never contented myself with pat answers. I was never a member of the Bahaifaith, a spin-off of Islam with surface-level racial and gender equality that promises world peace if only you never disagree with the corrupt administration. Women are prohibited from the top of, and never have any real emotions or gay sex. Yeah, when I thought to marry someone from that dangerous cult, it overshadowed our entire marriage, and while my ex was not exactly Justin Baldoni, the exposing the passive-aggressive patterns of them both in the Hidden Faith podcast has sharpened my instincts to fearlessly fight for the truth against all sorts of power structures. For instance, by exposing the multi-level marketing firm People Helping People later this year. Before con artists incentivized to chase Super Bowl-style rings, fleece any more black and other economically disadvantaged hopefuls out of their money, with pie-in-the-sky promises of easy money through individualized universal life insurance. I also have uploaded 35 episodes of 34, of Sunny Redemption Sailing, your bi-weekly voyage for BS-free gaming news with my good friend Kevin, where we slammed the gaming industry's cruelty, such as with the recent layoffs of 9,000 people by Microsoft in favor of AI contractors. If you've watched this far and like what I do, again, please consider giving a like, subscribe, share, and bell hit. Making human content for free on the internet is hard, so I appreciate any support. I might have taken years off of my life with 5 months of research and writing. This was originally going to be called the Don Road Doctrine, and be more focused on his immediate foreign policy. As chaos unfolded around me, and other responsibilities weathered me to the point of having white hair in my 30s. However, I felt such a deep sense of accomplishment and learning from running this channel, even if I can only do so much largely by myself. I'm much more confident saying how I feel at my federal job, with practically nothing written down for fear of being fired for disloyalty by domestic enemies to the Constitution. I acknowledge my fear-rooted and valid emotions around the people I treasure most, but have the steel to not let it become, as FDR once said, fear itself. Nameless, unreasoning, unjustified terror, which paralyzes needed efforts to convert retreat into advance. Okay, yeah. A extended timeout with the audio appears to have fixed it.
Enjoy the park.
But yeah, you can see how dictators like to put their stamp on everything. Okay, yeah. Move slightly faster. That's nice, especially for someone who's such a lumbering giant. Anyway.
Andrew Ryan wakes one night while cruising the Atlantic.
Here's the backstory of Rapture.
The Olympian. His sleep interrupted with a singular purpose.
The founding mythology is always important to pride for a society.
We begin building here.
Okay.
Refitted for heavy construction, the Olympian returns with a new cargo. A state-of-the-art submersible platform, nicknamed the Sinker, ferries supplies and workers to the sea floor, fathoms below. After initial supplies have been brought to the seafloor, the platform is permanently moored in the sediment. Massive iron girders are sunk hundreds of feet into the rock and silt. Below the platform, engineers work to overcome obstacles such as diamond-hard rock, obstinate sea life, and unexpected terror.
Well, that and the massive amount of pressure that a skyscraper-like structure would come under from all sides. If you really wanted to build an underwater city, you'd probably need to use a dome, because then that could evenly handle pressure from all sorts of sides.
I love the kids in Miss English third grade class.
Oh no.
I had no idea.
This audio.
Volunteering to chaperone this New Year's sleepover party at Ryan Amusement. Donnie, get down off that exhibit, and I told you, spit out that gum. You'll choke. The kids' parents deserve a night off to enjoy New Year's, but I'm at my wit's end. Donnie.
Oh, New Year's 1959. The last New Year's Eve that Rapture ever had before the Civil War.
After the platform is secured, work progresses at an astounding rate, designed to be the foundation of...
Yeah, again, no one could have done all this other than Andrew Ryan. Is the mythology that he wants you to buy. In this amusement park named after himself, with all sorts of propaganda against the surface dwellers. So yeah. Okay. Alright, that healed me up entirely.
Until you arrive, Father, I'm trapped here. Smuggling these gifts out is the most I can do to help.
Oof. Well. Sorry, Eleanor. I'll be there as soon as I can. Anyway. Typically, political attrition maneuvers such as continued protests can weaken even the most powerful groups in America, especially in terms of economic slumps. How the world handles him after he's hopefully impeached and convicted by all the Democrats and a bunch of Republicans who realize they need to get rid of this guy if they don't want to be disappeared will be up to people in the future. I hope that this live stream was informative and can't wait to bring more. Anyway, let's grab that. Oh, eat dog. Yeah, I think this is an
In ethical psychiatry, we must account for...
Eleanor Lamb speaking. Mum says I'm not to play with the other children.
Brainwashing at its finest on children. The people who really want to brainwash children to hate are the Republicans. They must be stopped from doing so.
And went out to find one.
By protecting civil rights of kids in general. Trans, cis, autistic, neurotypical, whoever. Like, the parents are not the supreme unit of decision making in society. There have to be other considerations, especially when someone is being force-fed bullshit that could kill themselves. But anyway, I only had that one H-word reference in this live stream. While there is certainly a non-zero risk of that level of dictatorship, or more likely, Putin Orban, I will not be mentioning any of them going forward, and will try to avoid mentioning tacos so much throughout, even if things really hit the fan in the next 2 weeks or so. Next time, July 19th at 9:30 EDT on the Delta Papers. I'll instead be including references to the Medici family, Savonarola and the Bonfire of the Vanities, and the artistic rivalry of Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, and Raphael. The life and accomplishments of Napoleon, who has been my favorite world leader to study for the past year. The rise in popularity of Ibrahim Traoré, the interim president of Burkina Faso since 2022, as compared to the Association of Sahel States coup belt dictators, and the 2021 democracy protests in Swaziland, as well as the government's crackdown on them, among other historical parallels, while getting more in-depth with Andrew Ryan. Then on August 2nd at the same time, I'll be mourning the presidency, as I imagined it when I was 5, by analyzing moments from, tentatively, Washington, Lincoln, Grant, and both the Roosevelts. Until then, have a good evening and keep on pursuing happiness, everybody.